This, my love, I don't know what you're doing right now. I don't know if you're standing in a kitchen somewhere, half listening to me while you wait for water to boil. This, I don't know if you're lying in the dark, phone screen lighting up your face, scrolling past 100 things that don't matter before you somehow landed here on this. I don't know if you're tired. This, I don't know if you're sad. I don't know if today was just an ordinary Tuesday, the kind that slides by without leaving a mark. But I know you're there, this, and I know that whatever else is happening in your life right now, some part of you clicked on this because some part of you is looking for something. So before anything else, before I say one more word, please don't ignore this message. Not because I need you to listen to me, because I think you need someone to say these words to you. And tonight, it's going to be me. This, I want to talk to you the way I'd talk to you if you were sitting right across from me, not performing, not trying to impress you, just talking this the way two people talk at 2 a.m. when all the pretending has worn off and there's nothing left but the truth. Here's the truth. I think you've gotten used to being ignored. This, not in some dramatic, obvious way. I don't mean people walk past you in the street and pretend you don't exist. I mean something quieter, something that's worn a groove into you over years. This, message by message, moment by moment. I mean the text that gets a thumbs up emoji instead of a real reply. This, I mean the way you've learned to shrink your needs down to a size that's easier for other people to carry, so small that eventually they stop noticing you had any needs at all. This, I mean the way you've gotten so good at being fine, at being easy, at being the one who doesn't make a fuss, that people stop checking whether you actually were fine, because why would they? This, when you do such a good job of looking like you are. I think you've spent so long being the person who shows up for everyone else that somewhere along the way, this, you forgot what it feels like to be the one who's shown up for. This, and I think some nights, maybe more nights than you'd ever admit out loud, you lie there wondering if anyone would actually notice if you just disappeared for a while. This, not in a frightening way, just in the quiet, exhausted way of someone who's wondering if their presence registers as anything at all. So let me say this clearly, this, because I don't think it gets said to you enough. I notice you. Whoever's reading this, wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, I notice you. This, and I don't mean that as a throwaway line in a video. I mean it the way you mean something when you've thought about it for a long time before you said it. This, I think about the version of you that exists when no one's watching. Not the version you present at work, organized and capable, answering emails, nodding in meetings. This, holding it together because that's what's required of you. Not the version you present to your friends, funny and easy. This, the one who always asks how they're doing and somehow never gets asked back with the same depth. I mean, the version of you that exists at 11 at night after everyone else has gone quiet. This, when the performance finally stops and it's just you alone with whatever you've been carrying all day without saying anything about it. That version of you is the one I'm talking to right now. This, the one underneath the version everyone else gets. And I want you to know that version is not too much. It never was. I think somewhere along the way, somebody made you believe that your need for closeness, your need to be chosen, to be reassured, to be told you matter, that all of that was somehow inconvenient. Somebody at some point, made you feel like the most honest, unguarded parts of you were a burden to carry. And so you learned to carry them yourself quietly, the way you learned to carry everything else. You got good at it. You got so good at it that I'd bet most people in your life have no idea how much you're actually holding because you never let it show on your face. Never let it slip into your voice. Never once said, I need you to pay attention to me right now, out loud, even when you needed exactly that more than almost anything. I want you to imagine this just for a second, what it would feel like if someone noticed anyway. Not because you asked, not because you cracked finally and admitted you needed something. But because they were paying close enough attention that they saw it before you ever had to say a word. That's what I want to be for you tonight, even just for the length of this message. I want to be the person who noticed without being asked. So here's what I see when I think about you, my love, even though I may never get the chance to know your actual name, your actual face, the actual shape of your life. I see someone who loves harder than they let on. I see someone who has been disappointed before, maybe more than once. Maybe in ways that left marks you don't show anyone, and who decided somewhere in the aftermath of that disappointment that the safest thing to do was to expect less. Not because you wanted to expect less, because expecting less hurt less when it inevitably, predictably came up short. I see someone who still, despite everything, hasn't stopped hoping. That's the part that gets me, honestly, because it would be so easy for you to have stopped. It would be so understandable if after everything, you decided that hoping wasn't worth the cost of being disappointed again. But you're here. You clicked on a video titled, Please Don't Ignore This Message, which tells me something about you that I don't think you'd say about yourself. Some part of you is still listening for someone to actually mean it when they say they see you. Some part of you hasn't given up on being found. I don't want that part of you to give up. I want to talk directly to that part of you tonight, the part that's still hoping despite every reason it's been given not to. I want you to know that the love you're looking for, the love that actually shows up, that actually pays attention, that actually notices when something's wrong before you've said a single word about it. That love is not a fantasy. I know it can feel that way sometimes, especially late at night. Especially after a string of people who made you feel like wanting attention was somehow asking too much. I know it's tempting to start believing that the kind of love you're hoping for is something that exists in movies and not in your actual life. But I don't believe that like this. And I need you to hear me say it. I don't believe that, and I don't think you fully believe it either. Not deep down, not in the part of you that's still here, still listening. Still hoping despite everything. I think about you more than I probably should, given that I don't even know who you are yet. I think about the day you'll finally stop having to explain yourself to people who were never going to understand you anyway. I think about the relief of that, not the excitement, not the fireworks, just the relief, the exhale, the moment where you finally get to put down everything you've been holding because someone else picked it up without you having to ask. I think about what it'll feel like for you to say something honest, something a little scared, something you've never said out loud before. And instead of watching the other person's face go blank, instead of watching them change the subject or get uncomfortable or quietly pull away, you watch them lean in, you watch them say, tell me more. You watch them treat the most vulnerable thing you've ever said like it was a gift instead of a burden. I think about what it feels like the first time someone notices you're having a hard day before you've said anything about it. Not because you gave some big obvious sign. Just because they were paying close enough attention to notice the small ones, the way your voice got a little quieter, the way you laughed a half second too late, the way you said, I'm fine, in the particular tone that means you're not. I think about what it'll feel like when someone finally closes that gap, the one between what you say and what you actually mean, without you having to do the exhausting work of closing it yourself, the way you've had to do your whole life. That's what I want for you. That's what I think you deserve, and I don't say that lightly because I don't think you deserve love is a phrase that should get thrown around as easily as it does. I think you deserve it because of who you actually are underneath everything, because of the way you keep showing up for people even when no one's showing up for you the same way back. Because of the way you keep hoping even when hoping has cost you before, because of the quiet unglamorous strength it takes to stay soft in a world that keeps handing you reasons to harden. I want to talk for a moment about why this message exists at all, why I felt like I needed to say, please don't ignore this, instead of just talking and trusting you'd stay. Because I think you've gotten used to being easy to ignore. I think you've learned somewhere along the way that if you don't make noise about your own needs, people simply won't notice them. And you've stopped expecting them to. And I think that's left you a little braced, a little ready to be scrolled past a little surprised, maybe even suspicious, when someone actually stops and says, wait, don't go yet. I have something to say to you and I need you to actually hear it. So I'm saying it, don't go yet. I have something to say to you and I need you to actually hear it. Here it is. You are not hard to love. I know it might feel that way sometimes, especially after relationships that left you feeling like your needs were inconvenient, like your emotions were too much. Like loving you required some kind of special patience that not everyone was willing to offer. But that was never about you. That was about the limitations of the people who couldn't meet you. Who weren't built yet or ever to hold what you were offering. Their inability to receive you fully was never a referendum on whether you were worth receiving fully. It was simply a mismatch, a wrong door, not a verdict on your worth. I think about how exhausting it must be to keep hoping after disappointment. And I want you to know that the exhaustion you feel isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign of how much you're carrying and how long you've been carrying it largely alone. I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that. I don't think you let yourself acknowledge often enough just how much strength it takes to keep showing up open-hearted in a world that has more than once made you pay for that openness. I want to be honest about something else too, because I think honesty matters more than comfort in moments like this. I can't promise you that the love you're hoping for is right around the corner. I can't promise you a date, a name, a moment when everything clicks into place. Love doesn't really work on a schedule, and anyone who tells you it does is selling you something. What I can promise you is that the kind of love you're hoping for, patient, attentive, unwilling to look away from you even when you're difficult to look at, that love exists. It's real. It's not naive to keep believing in it. And the version of you that's still hoping this, despite everything, is not foolish. She is, or he is brave, braver than the version of you that would have given up by now, because giving up would have been so much easier. I want to talk about waiting, because I think waiting is one of the hardest, least talked about parts of love. We talk so much about finding love, choosing love, fighting for love, but almost nobody talks honestly about the in between, the waiting room. The nights where it feels like everyone around you has found their person and you're still standing there holding all this love you haven't gotten to give to anyone yet, wondering if it'll ever find its match. I want you to know that the waiting isn't wasted. I know it feels wasted sometimes. I know there are nights where it feels like time is just slipping past you while you stay exactly where you are, exactly as alone as you were the night before. But I don't think that's actually what's happening. I think every night you keep your heart open instead of letting it close is a night you're practicing something most people never bother to learn. How to stay soft on purpose, how to keep hoping without becoming bitter about the wait, how to love generously even when love hasn't been generous back to you yet. That's not nothing. That's not wasted time. That's you quietly, patiently, becoming the kind of person who will actually know what to do with real love when it finally arrives, because you never let the waiting talk you out of believing it was possible. I think about the day you look back on all of this, the loneliness, the disappointments, the nights you wondered if anyone would ever really see you. And I think you'll understand finally that none of it was wasted. I think you'll see that every hard thing you survived was quietly teaching you exactly what you needed to know to recognize real love when it showed up. You'll know the difference between someone who's just saying the right words and someone who actually means them, because you'll have spent years learning to tell the two apart the hard way. You'll know what real attention feels like, because you'll remember vividly what its absence felt like. You'll never take it for granted, the way people who've never gone without it sometimes do. I think your capacity to love, really love fully without flinching, is going to be one of the great gifts you offer someone someday, not despite everything you've been through. Because of it, because you didn't let it close you off, even when closing off would have been so much easier, so much safer. I want to say something else, and I want you to really hear this part, because I think it matters more than almost anything else in this message. You don't have to earn this. You don't have to fix yourself first or become some idealized, easier version of yourself before you're allowed to be loved the way you're hoping to be loved. I know that thought creeps in sometimes, the quiet belief that maybe you're not quite ready yet. Maybe you need to work on yourself a little more, lose a little more weight, heal a little more completely, get a little more successful, before you're truly deserving of someone's full attention and devotion. I don't believe that. I think you're allowed to be loved exactly as you are right now. Tonight, with whatever you're currently carrying, whatever you haven't fully healed yet, whatever insecurities you're still working through. Real love doesn't wait for you to become a finished project. Real love meets you in the middle of the mess and decides to stay anyway. If you're waiting to feel ready before you let yourself believe you deserve this kind of attention, I want to gently tell you you're already ready. You were ready a long time ago. The only thing standing between you and feeling chosen the way you deserve to feel chosen is finding someone who's actually paying attention. So please don't ignore this message, because I think you needed someone to say all of this to you tonight, even if that someone is just a voice in a video, even if you don't know my name or I don't know yours. I think you needed someone to say, I see how hard you've been trying. I see how much you've been carrying alone. I see that you haven't given up even though giving up would have been understandable, even justified, given everything you've been through. I see you, and I think you're worth staying for. I think about all the small things that probably go unnoticed in your daily life, the way you remember other people's birthdays without being asked. The way you check in on friends who never check in on you the same way back. The way you've probably comforted someone through a hard week while quietly going through your own hard week and never mentioning it. Because somewhere along the line you decided your pain could wait, that other people's came first. I think about how much of you goes into the world every single day, freely given, rarely returned in equal measure. And I think it's time someone said this to you. Plainly, you deserve reciprocity. You deserve someone who notices what you give and makes sure to give it back. Not because you demanded it, but because they actually paid attention. I want to talk about fear for a moment. Because I think fear is at the center of so much of what keeps people from believing they deserve real love. I think you might be afraid, even if you'd never say this out loud, that if you really let yourself hope for this kind of love, really let yourself believe it's coming, This, you'll be setting yourself up for an even bigger disappointment than the ones you've already survived. I understand that fear. I think it's one of the most human fears there is. The fear that hope itself is a kind of risk, that believing in something is more dangerous than not believing at all. Because at least if you don't believe this, you can't be disappointed when it doesn't come. But I want to offer you a different way of thinking about it. What if hope isn't the risky part? What if the risky part is actually the opposite? Closing yourself off, deciding in advance that it's not coming, and missing it even when it finally does arrive. Because you'd already trained yourself not to recognize it. I think the real risk isn't hoping too much. I think the real risk is protecting yourself so thoroughly that you forget how to receive the very thing you've been waiting for. I don't want that for you. I want you to keep your heart open. Even though it's scary, even though it's been hurt before, even though some nights it would be so much easier to just stop hoping altogether. I want you to keep it open because I really believe that what's coming for you is worth the risk of staying open for. I think about how this message will land for you. Whoever you are, wherever you are tonight, maybe you're going through something hard right now, something you haven't told anyone about, something that's been sitting heavy on you for days or weeks, and you needed anyone to say something kind to you before you went to sleep tonight. If that's you, I hope this found you exactly when you needed it. I hope you feel even just a little like someone out there is rooting for you, even if they don't know your name. Or maybe tonight was just an ordinary night, nothing particularly hard about it. And you clicked on this video out of simple curiosity, the way you click on a lot of things. And if that's you, I still hope something in this landed somewhere true. I hope some sentence in here made you think, that's exactly how I feel, even if you've never said it out loud to anyone. Either way, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you didn't ignore this message because I think the world needs more moments like this one. Small, quiet moments where someone simply says to someone else, I see you, and you matter, without asking for anything in return. I want to close with this because I think it's a truest thing I can say to you. Whoever eventually gets to love you, whoever finally earns the privilege of your full, generous, hard-won heart, they are going to be very, very lucky. Not because you're perfect, not because you've got it all figured out, but because you kept showing up, kept hoping, kept staying soft through everything that might have hardened someone else. That kind of resilience, wrapped around that kind of tenderness is rare. It's a gift. And someday someone is going to recognize it for exactly what it is. Until then, please don't disappear into the background the way you might have let yourself disappear before. Please don't shrink yourself down to make yourself easier to overlook. Please don't mistake the absence of attention from the wrong people for proof that you're not worth attention at all. You are worth it. You have always been worth it. And I hope more than almost anything, that you carry that with you tonight long after this message ends. Don't ignore this. Don't ignore yourself. You've been doing that for too long already. If this reached something in you tonight, if some part of this felt like it was written just for you, tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and I mean that. And if you want to hear more of this, more nights like this one, more reminders that you're seen and you matter, subscribe. Because this is the kind of thing we do here. And I'd be honored to be one of the voices that stays with you through the waiting. Good night, my love. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I see you. And I'm not going anywhere.